Hi, I'm Mark. I am a photographer who runs a video studio in a suburb of Portland, Oregon, and call my space here the Action Figuratorium because it's where I keep all my toys. And on this episode of Toy Talk, I wanted to talk about the what I call the Ronin-ification of everything. That is where you take characters and you turn them into samurais. So stick around. So let's talk about the Ronin-ification of characters and specifically toys. And that is where you take an existing character and or characters or settings and you change them over to a sort of medieval Japan setting and you make them look like samurai warriors or characters that would be appropriate for that. Now, at first, we should talk a little bit about the influence of samurai films on Western pop culture and how this is ironically coming full circle, and which makes it kind of cool. And so for that, we need to go back to the samurai films from Japan of Kurosawa, because what we find is that those films had a big influence on Westerns of the 60s. That is, as the 60s and 70s played out, a lot of people took those samurai films and they found out that they could take the characters and the stories and the concepts behind them and they could turn them into stories in the Old West. So a movie like The Seven Samurai becomes a movie called The Magnificent Seven. And if you keep evolving it a little bit further, right, you take a movie like Star Wars that came out in '77, and you see that it's really an art film. It's really a postmodern film that is an homage to Hollywood itself. Within Star Wars, which is a space opera, right, but within it you have callbacks to all these different other genres such as the Western, World War II dogfights. You also have sort of Buck Rogers, Flash Gordon capes and ray guns. You have your sort of cliffhanger serials, your action adventure, right? And you also have a pretty good chunk of samurai movie in there as well, with the idea that the lightsabers would be this really two-handed heavy sort of Japanese style blade, and that characters would have their hair in kind of a Japanese samurai look, buns and ponytails off the sides, and they would have these cloaks, right? And so the sort of mysticism about it kind of comes from a little bit of these Japanese samurai movies that are in there. And then of course you see that the character of Darth Vader has a helmet that was influenced heavily by samurai helmets, and then they just sort of added a mask so that he could breathe in outer space. The idea was that these guys were going to be kind of like a pirate that would jump from one ship to the next, and he would need a mask, and they liked the way the mask looks and they just kind of left it, but ultimately he's got kind of a samurai helm. So when Bandai started doing the series that they refer to as the movie realization, they took, here, let's bring up a shot for you guys. They took the characters and they turned them into these sort of samurai versions, all right? And here's a shot from Toy Arc, and they show you all these different characters, and we will check out some more here on this. You can see the Darth Vader, not that different really from this guy, But these stormtroopers now have sort of samurai armor, and they've got samurai helmets, but with stormtrooper masks. And the guns look like old, early, like Chinese, you know, first generation pistols and guns. You see he's got this cool sort of Death Star looking motif thing on his Darth Vader's head and whatnot. You can see some of the detail on the armor of the character and how they've appropriated it, etc. Now, it should be stated that there was a custom action figure builder whose website is called Siloff, who did all these sort of genre-bending versions of Star Wars characters in different eras. And so he would take all the main cast of the, you know, the sort of, you know, Luke, Leia, Han, Obi-Wan, the two droids, Chewbacca, and of course Darth Vader, Stormtrooper, and Boba Fett, and he would turn them into sort of the appropriate setting. So if it was like a medieval setting, you know, Obi-Wan Kenobi would be a knight, Luke would be a squire, Han Solo would be kind of a rogue with a crossbow, Chewbacca would be sort of like a forest monster, that kind of thing. If he did like a Western version, right, Darth Vader's like a Black Bart. You know, Luke Skywalker's kind of like the young, all-in-white, good guy, sheriff kind of look, you know, that sort of thing. If they were to be like, say, pirates, you know, he would put them in pirate clothes and you know, all these sort of like fantastic ways of re-envisioning the character in sort of different clothing, but with the same colors and the same sort of motifs, you know, like in the medieval setting. C-3PO is now like a bard dressed in yellow with kind of a lute, and R2-D2 is sort of a shorter, sort of almost dwarf-like figure with like panpipes, right? And kind of cool. And so this guy, as far as I know, did this before Bandai, and let's click on his site. Here we go. So this is the not sure how he pronounces this, so if I say it wrong, I apologize. I'm going to say that that's Siloff, but who knows. So here's his one that he called Samurai Wars, and this is where he took the Star Wars franchise and he reinterpreted it as sort of a feudal Japan. So this is our C-3PO character. You see how he's kept the yellow, and he looks like he's kind of a sort of a manservant for like royalty. R2-D2 is just sort of a shorter character in the blue and white there with kind of the cool cool straw hat. And then of course here we go, here's our Stormtrooper in samurai armor with a real traditional looking kind of mask versus the Stormtrooper mask. He even made these people sort of Asiatic looking, but not exactly. This is our Princess Leia. Here's our Darth Vader character, of course, with a katana. Here's our Luke Skywalker. Here's our old samurai with the cool sort of man bun, and he gave him a patch. And the Wookiee is kind of like a sort of Japanese demon, forest demon looking thing. Han Solo, of course, has like a early pistol, very cool hairstyle on it. Here's a couple versions of Boba Fett. If you go to his website, you'll see that he's got a bunch of different versions. There is steampunk one, cyberpunk, 1950s sort of Americana, World War II, which is really great. I think we should check this out real quickly, even though this is getting a little bit off topic. I just think that everyone needs to know about the history of this cat and the stuff he came up with. Yeah, so this is great. This is his C-3PO. He's got like he's kind of like a walking armored tank from World War I with an arm that's like looks like a machine gun. And of course R2-D2 is also sort of a little mini tank that rolls around. So I'll just give you an idea of the creativity of this guy, but he did it first. He is really the guy behind the Ronin-ification of Star Wars. There's no doubt that the people at Bandai saw his work and created these other characters, these other action figures based on it. Now, I believe these are 8-inch guys. It's possible that maybe they're 10-inch. And they are pretty expensive, and there's quite a few available. There's a bunch of different versions of the Stormtrooper. There's one that comes with like a drum and a really cool bow and stuff like that, and different weapons and slightly different armor. But for the main part, they are yeah, there's some details. For the main part, these guys are very cool looking renditions of pop culture icons. And the most recent one that has come out is they've done one for the Mandalorian. Now, I believe they did one for the Mandalorian where he's in the original armor from like the first episode of the first season before he gets his new Beskar armor. And so this is, I believe this is on pre-order for $139. And this is our Mando as envisioned as a samurai. And of course, what is cool about this is the child, the Baby Yoda character in the push cart. And for those of you who don't know, there is a movie that came out in, I think it was 1971. It's has some different names as far as like what they called it when they imported it to America, and I think they recut it and they called it Shadow Assassin, but it's actually called Lone Wolf and Cub. The idea behind Lone Wolf and Cub is that it is a sort of disgraced samurai who is out of a job and looking to get revenge on the people who killed his wife and planted some evidence that caused him to go on the lam. So he's sort of being hunted by authorities while at the same time on a revenge kick. He has a small infant son that he does not want to take on the road with him, but he gives the son the choice to pick between a ball and a sword. If he picks the ball, he will kill the son and send him to his mother, who's already dead. If he picks the sword he's coming with, the child picks the sword, so it makes for an interesting story of this samurai traveling across the feudal Japanese countryside with a baby in a cart that looks just like this. And it is a really fantastic movie. It's shot beautifully. The fight scenes are fantastic. They're not just like these guys doing this for an hour. It's like he runs up to him, he stabs him, that's it. They move on to the next scene. It's really graphically bloody, and it's a cult classic. It's influenced everyone. And it's also the basis for Mandalorian Season 1 and 2. They took the idea from that movie, but here instead of like a disgraced samurai with his son, what they did is it's now a sort of a bounty hunter who, you know, he a sort of reverse, you know, a reverse effect of where like the captive falls in love with the captor. Instead, it's the captor falls in love with the captive. I believe that's called the Stockholm Syndrome is the trope name for that. And so it's reverse of that, where he falls in love with the little baby and decides that he's not going to turn the baby in, or actually he turns the baby in, gets the reward, then goes with the reward of the armor, goes back, kills everybody, and takes the baby. But now he's on the lam, being chased across the galaxy with this this child, and they have done a excellent job, in my opinion. The people at Bandai, which by the way, a great toy company, expensive as all hell, but I think worth it if you want really great looking stuff that feels well made and moves really well. I've gotten some SH Figure Arts bootlegs, and I've gotten the real thing, and man, can you tell the difference. it's not even really worth buying the bootleg at any given point. I've decided, I've checked it out with my own eyes to see if, like, well, you know, maybe the extra 30, 40 bucks I save is worth it. It's not. They're almost always crap. This is amazing. I love how they made the Grogu character really kind of Japanese looking, which they were already pretty close as is. This is great with the shot of our buddy Mando here pushing. There we go. There's a good shot of him. I think this has got some great detail, really well painted. Jetpack. Look, if you see my hand doing this, it means something. It means something. Not really sure if they needed the jetpack, but it really brings home the idea of who the character is. Of course, he's got an ancient feudal pistol, and they gave him that weird kind of rifle thing, and they gave him a sword too, because it's like, yeah, why not? The armor is really well done. Yeah, this thing. So this clocks in at $139. I have looked at other toy stores like Big Bad Toy Store. Everyone is selling it the same. This is the pre-order for this. I'm not sure when this is available. I am kind of on the fence about getting this. I would love to have the child in the push stroller. It would be great. The Mando is nothing to sneeze at. But $140 is a lot to throw down for something like this that can only be used for this. And what I mean by that is that when I spend a lot of money on a figure, like if I buy a 12-inch, you know, like a Triad Toys or a Psy Girls or something like that, I find that I can reuse the body and the head sculpt with a variety of other outfits and accessories, and I can turn them into different characters. Like I took the Psy Girls and I took one of them and I turned her into a Lara Croft with a little Lara Croft kit that I managed to snag on the cheap. There's an unboxing video I've done on it where I show how it's just a kind of a plain figurine, but you can take the head and the clothes off and put it on like a 12-inch figure, and you can sort of get a new character out of it, new articulated character. But with this, it's really only Mando in feudal Japan and nothing else. And I believe that these guys are, I believe they're 8-inch. I really need to look that up, because it does make a difference as to what other characters they can play nice with. Right now, the excitement is on 6-inch figures. Everyone is doing 6-inch figures. There's a lot that have been made. There's more that are coming out. That's the Black Series, that's Marvel Legends, that's Mythic Legions, that's DCU Classics, that's Masters of the Universe Classics, and that's just the stuff off the top of my head. So if you have something in that scale, you can do wacky pictures where different characters from different universes collide into different situations, and you can always make them work on film if you're smart. If this guy ends up being a little bigger, he really couldn't hang out with anybody other than my Iron Maiden Eddie guys, which is okay because they're always looking for friends. But with something like this, you know, you're pretty much stuck with this, and coming up with interesting things for him to do would be a challenge and a lot of fun. I would love to do it. I wish it was closer to like 60 bucks. If this was $60, essentially a little less than half, I would probably throw down for it right away. If you don't buy one of these as a pre-order, the chance of getting one cheaper through a reseller on eBay, because once these sell out, that's it. They disappear. They're not going to come back for a long, long time. And any reseller who has one new in the box is going to, of course, charge what they bought them for and more. And why shouldn't they? That's why they bought them. They are keeping them for you so that when you're ready to buy one, you can pick it up minus the storage fee. I mentioned this in a post I did about toy scalpers and how they're both sort of taking advantage of the toy collector and also kind of providing a service to the toy collector. It's a weird kind of state. They also create a kind of anxiety, which I'm talking about right now, which is where I have to make the decision. If I really wanted this, you should probably pay for the pre-order because you're probably only going to pay more for it in the future, unless you can find somebody who's got one loose and they lost the box and, you know, and there's a piece missing and they just want to sell it for, you know, for whatever they can get for it. Don't know, but you know, if you like this kind of thing, you should probably throw down and pick it up because you probably won't find it ever cheaper. And will it go up in value? Of course it will. This is going to be a thing that there's not a lot of these made, and when you see them out there being photographed on the internet, you're going to wish you had one. On the fence, wish it could be cheaper. Who knows? We'll see what happens. If I get it though, I'll definitely do an unboxing and show everybody. So hope to see you on the next one.